how I got started was I had a crisis in my life, and I found that I had a lot of time on my hands, too much free time to keep out of trouble. I grew up in the Bronx in New York and moved up to Dutchess County. And I had a family, and then we went through a divorce. So I had a lot of time on my hands on weekends. So what am I going to do with myself? Get in a lot of trouble. So I picked up a paper one time, and well, I was involved anyway. I was always artistic. I was always involved some way. I was a mason by trade, and actually I was old-fashioned plastering we used to do. And I had an apprenticeship at that trade, and I was learning how to do fancy moldings out of plaster and all that stuff. I went to school in New York. I started out in the city, and then I moved up here, and then I ended up, like I said, I had a change in my lifestyle, and I started tinkering around, and I met this, I was doing some work for a gentleman. He was an artist, and he was very, very famous. His name was Norman Bloom, and he bought an old farm out near where I used to live. He had a big barn, and that was his studio where he worked. I was doing work for him, and I got to be friend with him, you know, and I met a lot of interesting people there that were coming up. I mean, talking about guys like real heavies, you know. This guy was a heavy hitter. I mean, he was big time. He did these huge paintings as long as this room was right all that. He used to have a scaffold. He'd run back and forth on the paint. But whatever. That's him, not me. So I got involved. I was doing a little artwork, and I took some lessons, and I was studying. I was doing clay modeling and stuff like that. But I used to get bored with the clay. I didn't like it too much. I didn't mind working with the clay, but I didn't like the process of the casting. It took too much of my time, and to me, I wasn't doing my artwork. I was doing another process. So a friend of mine used to work at a stone quarry, and he came up to my house one day with his pickup, and he dumps off a boulder. And he says to me, he said, I want to see what you can do now. He says, do something with this, right? So I started. You know, you can't challenge me, because I won't back down. So I did. I took his challenge, and I chiseled away, and I did some carvings and stuff. And I was struggling at it. It's not easy, you know. So finally I took some lessons, and I was taking lessons. Group lessons with a group. Place similar like this, you know, a building where they had a lot of different art. People coming in and doing different type of art. And so I wasn't getting enough there. I had to, you know, what I wanted to do. So I found this gentleman in Millbrook, New York, and his name was Joseph Finelli, and he was quite an accomplished sculptor. But he used to do a lot of modeling more than stonework. But he said, I'll teach you. I showed him what I was doing in stone. He grew up in the stone, in the old country. His family was in the stone industry. So he says, I can teach you, you know, but, you know, he wasn't really a stone carver, but he knew what he was doing. He knew everything. So we worked together for a while, and then I studied up at the Vermont Carving Studio. I went up there for a workshop. And that was very interesting. Now I was in some serious stuff. We had like 20, 25 different sculptors from all over the country and world. And these guys, a lot of them were like me, and we were just feeling our way into it, you know, and there was a lot of people there that were real talented. And we learned from each other, helped each other out. And this piece here, right here, is a piece I did up at the carving studio. And the thing with that is, we move it, I brought a model up, because I learned from this other artist about making a model, maquette, and all that stuff. So the maquette I brought with me, and I was going to do a seated bather, a reclining bather, okay, in stone, from my model. I couldn't find it. I'm going crazy. I tore my car apart. I got nothing with me. I come up with my tools, but I don't have anything to work from. So the lady that ran the place, she was a sculptor. And she called me in her office and she says, "Carl, you're not doing anything, you know, you got to get going, you know." And I was helping everybody bring in the stone from the quarry with carts and stuff like that, and moving the stone on the tables. I was experienced at that because I was a mason anyway, handling stones, you know. So I says, I forgot my maquette and I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what to do. So she says, go out in the stone yard, just sit out there, take a pen, a pencil, just sit out there and look at the blocks of stones. All these huge blocks of stone, some of them 6 feet high, some of them are 2 feet, you know. Of course I wasn't looking for anything real big. So I looked at this square, this block, here you can see it. Big picture about like that. It was bigger, it was like that. And I took it inside, and I drew the divisions of the face, the nose, this here, the eyes, the chin, and all quick, just straight lines. And I just picked up the hammer and chisel, and I started working. So when you start out with the point. Come on, point. Where are you? Okay, yeah, something similar to this. Okay, this is the beginning. So I started slamming away at it, pounding away. And I really didn't know where I was going. I had a face in my head, but I had no plan. So this is where I learned the lesson. Just go in there and go for it. Get in there and do it. You know? Don't contemplate. Don't think and worry about this and that. So that's where I got into direct carving, which I do now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you how the old masters did this type of work. And this is before computers, electronics. I learned the old-fashioned way. This guy was an old school. I'm anti-computer, laser, and all that stuff, because nowadays you can take this here piece of stone, this one here, and you want to make it life-size, huge. I can bring it to a fabrication plant. It could be in clay, it could be anything, it could be something found, whatever you want to do. One of those there, you know. You bring it in, and they put it on this table, and the machine reads the whole piece and takes it into its brain, and it actually carves out a block. It will carve the block out in the rough. Okay, then after it comes out from the rough, then you just refine it. Just do the cleanup and all that stuff. That's what they do today. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm against it. I'm old-fashioned. I'm behind in my times, but that's where I'm living. You know, that's who I am. I don't like this modern. I don't like this stuff going on now in the world. It's too fast. This is the way I did it. The way I learned from the old masters. What you do is, first of all, you have a model, say. Okay, this is the way they do it the old way. Back in the Renaissance, you had a model. So what they do is, you take the model, and you take the block of stone, and you measure the stone, the square of the stone.
Do you want to actually lay these down on this?
Yeah. And so you take this is the, say this is the model.
That's the block. This is the model.
I'm sorry, here. This is the stone.
The model.
This is the model, I'm sorry. That's the stone. Just picture this as a block here. Square block. Now this, actually this here piece, if you see it, you see all these little squares, these little lines and all that? That's another study of the anatomy of the skull, the head. Actually, he taught me from the, right over there you have a skeleton head. We started from that even. But this guy was like a surgeon when it came to the body, the human body, when it came to muscle and stone. He was an artist, he wasn't a doctor, but he knew. And taught me, you study the planes. You made this out of clay. You have the planes of the skull, the bone structure. And then you have all these measurements here after that's done. We made that out of clay and then we cast it in plaster. Okay? But this is not from this. This is two different pieces. I just want to explain why it looked like that. But just vision now, make believe that we're going to do the model here and the stone here. So what I do is I got the measurement of the stone block and I bring it over here and I measure the stone, the square. Okay? I have to measure the stone, the existing block. So now I got a block of marble right there looking at me. Nothing there. I mean here, I'm sorry. This is the block. So what we do is, now you got a block of marble here, solid. Nothing there. This is inside the block. This is just a huge block. I got the model here. So now what we do is you take a square. Well, there's a lot of ways to do it. You can take depending if it's a small piece, if it's a big piece, there's another procedure. You can use story poles, 2x4s. You have to have the shape of the stone here. Okay? So if this is a huge piece, you would have 2x4s going all the way up to the ceiling. But this here, you take this here, and here's the caliper. You got two ways to do it. Okay, you take the caliper, right? You take this and you measure in. Say, well, let's do it this way. It's easy. They can't see it. You measure into the high point and the low point, like the nose. Yeah, let's do it that way. They can see it better. There. All right? So now your stone is all the way out to here. That's your stone. So now we
stone, but this is the model.
Right. That's what I have to do. I have to get the distance from this point to here. And then I go to the block and I know that that's the height, the depth that I have to go to. So what you do is you drill a hole. And the old masters, they had a drill, a handmade drill. It looked like a bow and arrow. It had a bow to it. And they would drill by manual. None of this computer stuff. I don't want to hear about it. And with this tool, they drill a hole all the way to this point that I measured.
The next point.
You got to drill to that point. So here's your measurement. So you keep checking, drill, checking. Of course, we use electric drill now. Checking, then you get that depth, and you stop. Then you have to do the same thing
All these measurements.
on the nose. You get all your high points. This is the nose. So you want to point the measurement. This could be anything, it's not much. So there we got to go. You measure from here down to the nose, and you do the same thing. You can drill a hole into that distance from the stone. You go to that. So you got a point here, and the chin, etc. You do the same thing. Then you get all your points. Now you have to get this too. So you get the side view. You measure, the ear is the furthest point out, so you measure that. Okay, so you know, you don't want to go beyond that because you lost the ear. So you do the same thing, you go back, and you measure it again. Keep doing that, and then it's a lot of a long discipline. You have to be disciplined to do that. You can't. It just doesn't. It never lets up on you. There's no peace on this thing. That stone is your boss. So now we start to work. We got all our marks so that if we go too deep, we hit the end of the drill mark where it went into. And we know that's where we stop. Okay, so you start out with the point. These chisels, these are machine chisels, because I do use a little help. I have a compressor. These chisels are $50 a piece. So if you add it up here, it's over $1,000 in tools. More, because I got stuff home. But, okay, so we start out with this chisel here. This is what they call a pitching tool. So you got a square block. And you know you're going to do a head, you know. So you know you want to start, you do it by, it's all by eye now. You've got all your points. But you knock off the big corners with this tool. It's a beautiful tool. It takes off chunks, big pieces. I'm talking about you got a big block. And it actually saves you a lot of time. The old-fashioned way, speed. This is the way you did it. And after you knock off all the blocks off the corners, the four corners, you get the point. Here it is. Most people know what that is. Most people use this around the house. Maybe not this steel. So you start working with the point chisel. And you just rough it out. Everything is rough. And I'll show you right here. Here it is. This is what it looks like. These guys are the masters. These gentlemen used to start. They didn't go to school. Their father took them to work every day at 11 years old. They were in the studio, in the carving studio. They swept the floor. They chipped a little bit, cut a straight line or something, taught them, you know. I was born the wrong time.
Too late.
Too late. So, this is what they did. Here is the rough sculpture. What I'm talking about, see the square? You know what we're talking about? Go all the way into that one. And here is the guy working on it. There's your model. You can pass it around. Here it is again. From the model to the stone. This guy here worked on the cathedral in Washington, D.C. St. John the Divine, I think. No, not St. John. No, that's New York.
But it's the Washington Cathedral.
The Washington Cathedral.
National Theater.
That's the way there you can see what they were doing.
They carved the gargoyles.
I could have went to work on St. John Divine as an apprentice.
That's a quick question.
Sure.
Do you ever draw on there to,
Oh, yeah.
like with a pencil or something?
Yeah. Crayon, chalk.
To help guide you?
Oh,
yeah,
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that. Yeah, we do. Of course.
I figured that, but I don't
Yeah, you draw rough, you sketch on it.
But what happens with that, unlike other forms of art, is you get to a certain point and you've just erased your lines.
Yeah.
You have to start all over.
You go into a place of no return. when you draw on a square block and you start hacking away with the pitching tool and the point, you lose a lot of it. You have to go resketch it in or whatever. I mean, these guys, I don't want to brag, these guys, they can almost do it. They don't have to, they just keep going. I mean, they just go. I mean, they know where they're going. As long as they got their points, their marks, you know. But you draw. You do draw. And so that's the way they do it. So they use the point. After the point, they use the tooth chisel to rough it out. This is when you get this is what they call a modeling chisel. This is the drawing chisel. I mean, this does the refining. So after the point chisel, tooth chisel, then we go to a finer tooth. The teeth get softer and softer. You don't just use one chisel and that's it. Now you go from rough to finer because you're going down slower. And then finally you get to this guy. This is another fine modeling chisel. Slows down, you're taking off less, smaller chips come off at a little time. And then after this chisel, then we go to this baby here. This takes off all the scratch marks, all the chisel marks. This would clean up. So you're cleaning it up. You scrape. You're just scraping. You actually scrape. So now you get through all that, you got no more chisel marks. And from that, you got no chisel marks. So now, I didn't bring them all. We have a rasp. We use a rasp. I should have brought the larger rasps. But these are files. You start rasping the stone, just like you would a piece of wood. Pass that around. That's for fine work, but we have bigger ones. You know, they're real heavy. You rasp it. You take it down. Because now when you got marble, you get bruise marks in the stone. When you use the point, sometimes you might hit a little hard, and you get these bruise marks. So you want to get all of that off. You got to take it down to nothing. Pure, clean. Here it is here. You can touch this when you come up here and look at it. Here you go. Here's your chisel marks that I left to the hair. I left the texture. And then we polished the face. This piece here, I did it in a study where it was intense. This guy I'm working, and his head is right here, over me, and he's breathing on me. And he had garlic and pasta for lunch. And I got the garlic on him. And he's watching me. And then he's yelling at me, in my ear. These guys, this is old school. Kids today don't want to do that. They can't do it.
Now, where was that?
I wouldn't say that.
Where was that?
This was in Dutchess County.
Okay, I'm thinking you were in Italy for some
No. Well, I was up at the carving studio in Vermont. I was up there.
When you said old country, I thought you meant Italy.
The old style, old school. But yeah, he was strictly old school. I mean, he didn't want enough discipline. I mean, he'd yell at you. I mean, you had to be able to take it. You got to listen and let him yell. I used to call him, I wouldn't say Joe. I called him Mr. That's what we're losing today. Do me a favor, try to hold on. So, yeah, that's that. And then these pieces here. This here is my first commission in Millbrook, New York, in a state. I carved this.
That was a limestone.
What's that?
That was a limestone.
Yeah, this is limestone. This piece here. Can you see it, or you want me to get it close? Okay, I got a probably. And so that was the commission that I did. I never made enough money. Artists never make money. You give you money. You give you know, you think you're making money, but you're not. And this is another piece that I did. This is an interesting piece.
Yes.
Remember?
Oh, yes.
When I was at the carving studio, when I was finishing up, Marilyn came up for the weekend, and it's my wife now. And she came up for the weekend, and I was just cleaning up. I was just finishing up. Where is it? That one. That one. The head. That was all just not finished.